Live from the Xfinity Studios at WVON. You're listening to Stats and Stilettos.
Talking Chicago 1690 WVON. Stats and Stilettos. Those highlights were courtesy of Fox Sports. And the Bears get a win that they desperately needed. Probably won't mean anything next week. What's going on, everybody? I'm Farouk Basir.
I'm Maya Kopp.
And yeah, they're 9-6 now. We'll talk about all that. We'll talk about a lot of NFL stuff here in the first hour. Coming up at 10:07, we'll have Agri Sam from Comcast Sportsnet to talk about the Bulls, the first place Chicago Bulls, and a whole lot of stuff going on tonight. You can feel free to give us a call here at the station at 773-591-1690. That's 773-591-1690. You can also listen online at WVON.com. Follow the show on Twitter at
Stats&Stilettos.
You can like our Facebook fan page as well. So Bears now 9-6. They're figuratively still in the race, but still need a few things to happen for them to make their way into the playoffs.
You know, when the Vikings game was over, you tweeted me, like, what I think about the Vikings. And I'm like, remember the conversation we had, like, what was this, like, really towards the beginning of the season, how when the Vikings were winning and looked good, and we said it was really about what they did after their bye week. When it's all said and done, they have won the games that they needed to win. And their defense is what has kept them in the game, has not abandoned them, and it's got nothing to do with scoring. It's about playing just good, clean defense, bottom line. Penalty-free, pretty much, defense. And why the Bears won this game today is because what? They fell back into character of their defense, scoring points. And I'm once again, something that should really be an asset should never feel like it's a detriment. And it seems like if the defense can't score, the Bears can't win. And that, to me, is a dangerous thing.
Yeah, it means that they won't get very far, even if they get in the playoffs there, because they're too reliant on their defense scoring for them. And it really, if a team manages the ball, the Bears will have a hard time beating them in general if they're a good team or a bad team, it seems like. That seems to be the case here through the first 15 games of the season. As long as you take care of the ball against the Bears are going to have a hard time even scoring against you, nevertheless even beating you.
And I think this, to a degree, the score is more of illusion than it is a reality, because it wasn't about what the offense was able to do. It was what the defense was able to do to allow the offense to execute. Somebody asked me this question, who listens to the show, and he said, for all the criticism that's going on with the Bears, do you really feel like Jay Cutler is the right fit? And I looked at him and I said, well, I will tell you this. Jay Cutler was not brought to Chicago for the mediocrity he has given at the position. I know that. I know that's not what they brought him here for. And I do watch what he does, and you have to take away the excuse of there isn't anyone to throw the ball to. Heck, I don't even want to hear people bash the O-line anymore, because for what it's worth.
So don't tell the truth, in other words. That's kind of what you're saying.
Well, no, I'm just saying. Stop making up excuses for why Jay Cutler is not executing when he should be.
So those things don't factor into why he's not?
Of course it does. But for what it's worth, the O-line, what you see is what you get.
Okay, but that factors into some of his failures here.
Okay, but not 100% his
Oh, no,
failure.
not at all. But you can't eliminate the lack of targets and the lack of offensive line. They're not the primary excuse
for the fact that he's not executing. Now, we can also look on the flip side, all the people who drop balls as well. He can't change that too. But there's no excuse for why they're not able to execute. It's just not acceptable. It's like without the defense scoring, they can barely put up 11 points.
Yeah.
That's insane.
They got a good running game going today, though, of today's game. Just talking strictly today. They did run the ball well. They were able to move the ball somewhat offensively. Cutler started slow, 1 for 11, but he wound up 11 for his last 15, so he kind of got that going. Spread the ball around on that second touchdown that they got a little bit, getting the ball to Earl Bennett. And what did Dick Stockton call him? He called him like Alshon Marshall is what he called him.
Oh, no.
He combined the two.
Oh, no. Boy, wouldn't that be quite the play with Alshon Marshall? Man, I'm going to tell you what. I know that there's been some hiccups with Alshon Jeffrey's development, but I can't wait to see him next year. He has so much potential, and I understand his injury kind of has delayed what he's able to do, and I think he's getting closer to it, but just he is good physical real estate when it comes to a player and his size and his ability. Not the quickest fellow on the field, per se.
Not at all. No.
But that's okay because he can go up and get the ball. I'll be really interested to see how he develops next year when he's there, to have him on one side of the field and Marshall on the other. It's going to be an interesting, considering if they can throw the ball to them, whatever.
Got to talk about the coaching once again. Lovey with the worst challenge of the year. The most obvious, no reason for you to challenge, and he just throws a red flag out there. Larry Fitzgerald walked up to him. He had to be like, dude, did you see that play? Because the knee was obviously down. Who was it? Michael Floyd, the Notre Dame product, still had the ball up under his arm. And I'm like, man, Lovey, what are you looking at? Who's telling him to call this? You know what I mean? Who's telling him to throw this flag?
Let's be honest. Why does anyone have to be telling him to call it?
They have guys up in the
in his mind,
up in the nether regions of the stadium.
He probably really thought it was the appropriate call because
I wouldn't be surprised.
Lovey is not the sharpest tool in the shed.
I wouldn't be surprised
when
at all.
it comes to his game management decisions and timeouts and challenges. That's clearly not something he's done well at during his tenure as a head coach. So, yeah, I said it. He's not the sharpest tool in the shed.
But, yeah,
he ain't the dullest blade either. But
that kind of lends, though, to what a lot of people have been saying over the last few weeks, that even if they do make the playoffs and go out early, which they probably will if they get in, if by some grace of God the Packers decide not to play next week, decide to forfeit that game, that even if they get in, he still should be gone.
Look, Dee and I were talking about this before the show.
Mm-hmm.
How I foresee this scenario playing out is that Lovey has one more year left in his contract, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much, unless he chooses to leave on his own. The organization, because he's so well loved by the McCaskies, specifically Virginia, will probably allow him to play out that contract, and they save some money because they're really in transition they've got some other holes to fill that they probably didn't realize were there until they got to this portion of the season. So it's very highly likely that they're probably going to let him finish out that contract and let him kind of leave on a good note, not an embarrassing note, and then pursue somebody else, because the coaching carousel is clearly going to have lots of open,
this offseason.
This offseason, because we know that North Turner should be fired.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of people.
It's just Romeo Crennel, but he might just get a pass just for tragedy. But there's going to be quite a few coaches that are not going to have jobs.
All right, let's go around the league because there's a lot to talk about. So let's do this.
What's up?
Welcome to Around the League. I am Damon Spruiel, your moderator right here on Stats and Stilettos. You can follow me on Twitter at Demons1. That's DEMONZE1. Very, very big day in the NFL. I don't have like a ton of games to talk about, but I have some games that's impacted our Chicago Bears. So first off, got to talk about Minnesota. Minnesota 23, Houston 6. Christian Ponder 16 for 30, 174 yards with one touchdown. Adrian Peterson with only 86 yards. He had Matt Schaub go for 18 for 32, 178 yards. And Andre Johnson went for 97 yards. So Adrian Peterson didn't go crazy, ballistic, so he's probably not going to break the all-time rushing record.
Well, he needs about, 200 yards?
200
roughly? I think 208.
Yards. Yeah.
I think it's the
But
exact
he
amount.
is not going to do that against the Green Bay Packers.
I would not be so
He
fast to
is
say that because Green Bay is going to have the JV team out there next week against your Chicago Bears.
But why would
he
they
might get 300
They got burned.
yards.
They got burned last year from doing that.
Okay, but
So I don't think they're
not,
going to do that this year.
I don't think they're not in position for a bye, if I'm not mistaken, unless San Francisco would have to lose out.
Yeah,
right.
San Francisco have to lose.
And
So the way it's looking, they're about to do it.
So Green Bay, technically, I guess, has something to play for next week. So that's going to, impact that game tremendously. But even with that, the Packers don't have a great run defense. Adrian Peterson put up some huge numbers against them earlier this year. So 208, while it's a large total and would be
That's a
very
lot of
big,
yards.
he's very capable of getting 208 yards on the Green Bay Packers. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he did
Yeah,
that.
they're not a good run-stop defense. So
That can happen.
if he runs with a man on a mission, it's possible.
But bigger than that, though, is the thing going on right now that we're watching with the 49ers.
Right.
I know you'll get to that game because this is going to make the Packers have to play next week.
Yep. Yeah,
They're
definitely.
going to have to
definitely.
play because there'll be, that bye at stake, and I'm pretty sure they love that. So that's good for, Bears fans, for us being Bears fans here. So go Pack.
Go Pack. I can't believe I'm saying that. And the rivalry between the Packers and the Vikings is very, very intense.
Yes,
it's probably
yes, it
big. It's probably more intense than Packers Bears. So yes,
That's a bold statement.
saying it.
I think it depends on just where you're at. I mean, I think probably for people in Minnesota, they probably feel that way. I mean, I don't.
But it's more so the Packers looking at the Bears like, yeah, dude, we dominate you all. Going against Minnesota, during those Brett Favre years, it was very competitive.
So let's put together a list. Reasons to fire Lovey. 1, your initial objective was to beat the Green Bay Packers, which you can no longer do. Check.
It's going to be a lot of checks.
You make
It's going to be a lot of
you
checks.
throw
when you get
dumb
that.
challenge flags.
Check. Oh, he got like a million checks next to those.
Don't know how to call timeouts.
Check.
Yeah, clock management.
Check.
Yeah.
It was crazy to see Minnesota put up 23 points against Houston when the Bears couldn't do nothing against them.
Oh yeah, and by the way, Houston was playing for something because now you know
They
a
lost
game I'm
home.
sure
Yeah.
you get
Yeah.
to with the Broncos. They're
If
right
the Broncos
there.
win, they
Yeah.
get the number 1 seed, and
Yeah.
Houston loses.
So Houston wasn't just out there, you know, recreating. They had to play for something. so.
Recreate. We recreate. No.
All right, next game. Let's go over to Washington 27, Philadelphia 20. Robert Griffin III, 16 for 24, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He had Alfred Morris go for 91 yards with 1 touchdown. Nick Foles, 32 for 48, 345 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He had Jeremy Maclin go for 116 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, Washington, I believe, have they sold up the
No,
they
no,
haven't
no,
sold up the
because
NFC
they
West.
play Dallas
They play
next-
Dallas next week.
Yep.
So it's
And the
kind of
winner-
crazy to see a team that was 3-6 going against a team that was 4-4. 2 teams you thought were out of it. And now it's coming down to, once again, can the Cowboys do it? Last game of the season. Can they finish it out and actually get the division?
What was the stat I saw today that Tony Romo had the franchise leading passing yards?
I believe so,
For
yeah.
such a lack. When you see stats like that, you just go, for what? You know, it's like all that for naught. And you know, and it looked like the Cowboys were going to have a much better game than what they had. I just don't have faith. Look at it this way: the Redskins have momentum.
The win is at their backs for real.
No, seriously.
It is.
There's a certain hunger to wanting. RG3 wants to be successful. Remember, he's coming back a little rusty. This wasn't like his best outing, coming off, you know, the whole injury situation. So I would expect in his final game of the season for him to be able to execute.
That game is in D.C. next week. I see no way in the world that Dallas goes in there and
Telling
wins
you.
that game.
What's
This
that,
is for the
RFK
division
Field, is that
title.
what it is?
I don't think it's called.
Yeah, they're not in
No,
RFK
FedEx.
anymore.
It's
yeah,
called
they're
FedEx
in a
now?
new place.
FedEx, yeah.
But it's a new place too, so it's not even RFK anymore.
You know, I'm just saying.
But anyway, no way. In
So
the
you
world.
see no scenario, no way the
in the world
Cowboys
the
can-
Cowboys go in
I'm
there.
going with the Skins on this next
Yeah.
week.
Okay.
Washington easy in that game.
Washington easy. Ooh.
Yeah.
I won't go that far. I think it's going to be pretty competitive.
They gonna be rocking that joint out.
Listen, I mean, the boys coming back from where they came from, they see it. They have something to play for.
Washington, they have something to play for too. When was the last time the Redskins have been in the playoffs?
It's been a while. Was Deion Sanders on the team last time they played?
They said the last
it
time
might
that
have- he
Mike
might have
Shanahan
been.
had a playoff appearance was in 2005. Shanahan.
Shanahan was in 2005. Was Jay Cutler, I believe, right? Wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a lot here. They went from a team that was playing for their jobs next year
Right.
to we're in playoff contention.
They are the hottest team in the NFC. Dallas, no way
Whoa.
in the
whoa.
NFC is what I said.
Don't worry.
Ooh, what about
you know,
Seattle?
who?
No, Seattle lost to Miami before they got that
that's
Bears wake up call.
They're hot
They
right
lost to
now.
Miami.
They're hot right now.
He
Yeah,
said
they're hot.
NFC because, you know, if you talking about overall,
I know.
you know.
Yeah. But yeah, there's no that's not happening. Cowboys aren't winning. the game.
I'm gonna be all over the Redskins on this one. I mean, I really think that I think they have more of a kill mentality, seriously, than Dallas does. And you know what they'll do? This will just up that conversation about Tony Romo.
I see it already.
Because
Can't win the big game.
It's been on the table all season long, what he does in the postseason. So now it goes from how he falters in the postseason, now to go to, man, they can't even make it to the postseason with you.
But technically today, though, they scored, 2 touchdowns in the last 4 minutes of that game?
Yeah, those 2
And
touchdowns was
he
crazy.
played a major part in that.
He
so
did.
He brought him
did
back.
his thing today.
He brought him
did
back.
his thing today. So I'm quick to, bash him, but I'll give him his credit today. I'll give him credit.
You know what? I look at Tony Romo, and I don't know him and Joe Flacco. I look at them, and I'm like, I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to think. Because there's so many other issues on both of those teams. It's like the Jay Cutler conversation. There's so many other issues on those teams. How can I just look at you and say it's entirely you? Even though a part of me wants to feel like it partially is. Maybe not. I don't know.
Romo has more culpability for the Cowboys mess, though, than Cutler.
Yes, I would agree with you on that. For now.
For now.
For now.
Okay, let's go ahead and go down to Dallas. New Orleans 34, Dallas 31 in an overtime win. Drew Brees 37 for 53, 446 yards with 3 touchdowns. Had a Pierre Thomas sighting, 61 yards receiving and 1 touchdown. He had Tony Romo, 26 for 43, 416 yards, 4 touchdowns, and Dez Bryant, 224 yards,
Showed out.
2 touchdowns. And I was debating with someone about this, and they said that Dez Bryant is a bust.
What?
Who
I
said
don't-
that? Really?
He would be.
What
he
should
would
he be
named
doing?
nameless.
What should he be doing that he's not doing right now?
He just thinks the person. I'm not going to call him out like that, but he thinks
Call him
he's
out.
too much of a head case.
And what does it have to do with him getting
Well, you know, okay.
225
Wait,
yards
wait.
a day?
Do you know who Dez Bryant is right now? He was how Brandon Marshall was a couple years ago. That just very decisions that they make and the off-field things they did really impacted what they did on the field. That was Brandon Marshall initially a couple years ago.
Okay.
So we know the talent is there. I
The
feel
talent is definitely there. He
talent
didn't
is
stop
there.
punching his mother in
Absolutely.
the stomach.
That is so wrong.
Well, that's what happened.
I
That's
bet.
what happened.
That was ridiculous.
That's
too.
what happened. It
That
happened.
whole situation was so wrong.
I bet the Cowboys was like, man, the Saints. I mean, yeah, they're 6-8, but that's probably the last team you want to see right now if you need a win.
Yeah,
You
and
know
they
what
was
I
coming
mean?
in hot, but their defense let them back.
Right? They don't
They
have
had
the
a
defense,
chance.
but you have to try to stop them from scoring. Is the whole thing. That's not a team
That's
you want to
right.
be playing if you need a win nowadays.
That is called the Drew Brees factor.
Exactly. So yeah, that was rough. You couldn't. I'm not surprised at all by the outcome of that today.
I'm not either.
So
They spoiled it for him.
They surely did. But like we said with about the last game, they do have a chance to redeem themselves and to win the NFC East.
that game,
Next
that's
week.
going to be a large game.
That's
That
probably
is
the
so
must-see
big, yeah,
game
of the
next
year.
week.
Yeah.
It has to be.
I agree. That is a must-see game.
That is the must-see game next week. Probably the year.
What time is that game on next week?
I don't know.
Well, you know the flex thing. I think it was scheduled for noon, but they're probably going to wind up moving that to Sunday night. I'd imagine.
Why
that's
you think it's
gonna
gonna drop
be
it all the way to
Sunday
Sunday night?
night. A game like with that type of magnitude, they're going to want everybody to see that.
Yeah, that's a
That's
big
gonna
game.
be
Oh, it's
Sunday
huge.
night
It's
game.
huge. I mean, Dallas, the
Big game.
quote unquote American scene. Yeah, right.
Stop saying that.
Okay, I'm just saying what they say.
That's,
All right.
that's been a lie forever.
All right, let's go with the next game. Baltimore 33, New York Giants 14. Joe Flacco 25 for 36, 309 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 rushing touchdown. You had Ray Rice 158 total yards, 1 touchdown. Eli Manning 14 for 28, 150 yards with 1 touchdown. And you had Dominic Hickson 36 yards with 1 touchdown. So can we bury the Giants now? Are they?
They're
are
still
FIFA
technically
full
there
The
in
Giants
the
are
hunt.
done.
They're in the hunt, but they're behind the Bears and the Cowboys are in
Yes.
the hunt, so they need
That's-
way more help than the Bears.
Yeah, a whole lot of help to make it happen. This is actually might be the first season where you looked at the Giants who somehow always managed to creep into the playoffs and then win Super Bowls.
Yep.
Well, that actually just may not happen this season. It actually may not happen. They may be eliminated.
They flew too low under the radar.
It's
they
like
can't come back
you know what's
up.
interesting? I think they peaked too soon. Remember how they were just
Yeah,
rolling?
they was rolling.
They
They
were
was
rolling
rolling.
They started
up
good.
until like about 4 or 5 games ago. And then all of a sudden they started falling off.
Mm-hmm.
They peaked too soon.
Kind of reminds us of the Bears.
No comment.
But
Joe-
they
Joe-
win Super Bowls.
Joe Flacco had a rushing TD. The whole Giants team must have fell down or something. He's got that Paul Konerko speed.
He's a slow man.
Man.
Slow as molasses.
that was a good point. Like they must have wait. Like,
Is he running?
Right, but hey, Baltimore, they didn't have anything to
And
play
didn't
for
they
today. They
clinch
already clinched last week with that
and
loss.
they won the division, right?
Yeah, they won the division.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
believe they're the 4th
They
seed.
didn't wrapped up things neatly and took care of business.
Now, can we? I would like to see, and I think you can probably put Joe Flacco up under the Matt Ryan umbrella. Can you do it in the playoffs?
Well, no, Flacco
they
has
won.
won.
They
playoff
won. They
games.
won.
They
They
won
went
the
to the
AFC
AFC
title
championship.
game
That's
last year.
right.
So
Yeah,
he
that's
has
true.
won.
That is true.
He's won. He's not a 2-pointer like Matt Ryan there. And so he's a 0-pointer because Matt Ryan didn't even get those points. So
Maya, you have a very strange look on your face.
Because I'm looking at the game on TV. I'm watching. It just Anyways, so whatever.
Joe Flacco, any? No. They wrapped up the division.
He got, you know what? And actually, and Joe Flacco has had some decent success in the playoffs. I'm not going to sit here and say that I think that his
any success is better than Matt Ryan.
exactly at this point. But I will say this: I think it's time to move it to the next level with him. They need to advance beyond, just wild card rounds, and they need to get into, conference championships games. They need to do that now. That's to me how he increases his value and how people speak of him in this league.
So, what's the best sports show in radio?
Well, can you repeat? I mean,
No,
I
what-
don't get the question.
I said, what's the best sports show in radio?
I don't know. I really don't know.
It's Stats and Stilettos, of course.
Of course, it's Stats&Stilettos. Welcome back. This is Around the League with your moderator, Damon Spruiel, sitting there with Farouk Basir and Maya Akai. If you want to talk about anything we touched on so far, hey, 773-591-1690 is the number. Hit us up on Twitter at Stats&Stilettos. Next game, and this is for the Miss Akai. Denver, 34, Cleveland, 12. Peyton Manning, 30 for 43, 339 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He had Demaryius Thomas go off for 102 yards and 1 touchdown. And he had Colt McCoy, wow. 9 for 17, 79 yards, 1 touchdown. Where'd that come from? 1 touchdown for McCoy, and Greg Little, 58 yards, 1 touchdown. So Denver is 12-3 now? 12-3. 12-3, tied with the Texans. If the Texans lose and Denver win next week, they have the number 1 seed. I cannot believe I'm saying this. I am a Peyton Manning guy. I like him more than Tom Brady. I am a Peyton Manning dude. But I must admit, coming off a neck injury, which goes down to your throwing arm and your shoulders and your velocity, your arm strength, yes, I have to say, if AP doesn't break the record, I don't, and if they don't make the playoffs, I don't know if he's going to get MVP. But next in line, it should definitely be Peyton Manning.
That was one of the conversations that we were having during the week
Definitely
on Twitter.
Peyton
was
Manning.
that talking about MVP of the season? Is it Peyton Manning or is it Adrian Peterson? And there was like different variables that people put into it. Obviously, if the Vikings make the playoffs, ask yourself this question: let's say the Vikings make the playoff, but Adrian Peterson does not break the record. Is he still in the conversation for MVP? I mean, he's obviously a large part of why they're in the playoffs. And that same conversation happens with Peyton Manning. He is the reason that they are in the playoffs and they're seeded so high. So, I mean, to me, it's like that's a toughie because it's not so often that you even consider the likes of a running back in the conversation of MVP unless they've just have done something phenomenal. So that was the question that we put out. And I'd be curious what people think. If you had to cast your vote right now without knowing how the season was going to, end up, who are you putting your vote in for MVP of the NFL season? Are you voting for Peyton Manning? Or are you voting for Adrian Peterson? I'm curious. 773-591-1690 or at Stats&Stilettos. I'm curious how people are going to go on this. Because some people were very much all day. I love that, all day.
Well, I think they've had similar impacts on their team. So that could be one of those what was it that
Another
year?
one?
94 when it was Barry Sanders and who did he split that with that year? Research. Let's find it out. I believe it was Brett Favre that he split that with.
And that's the thing. It's such. I mean, they both have had such. You have two players that are both coming back from injuries, and I say this all the time. The way that Adrian Peterson has come back from that knee injury, because he had the ACL injury as well.
Yep.
The fact that his ability to shift and move has not really been affected. If you happen to be a Bulls fan, you should be really excited at this.
Yeah. But basketball, you have more.
But I'm just saying.
That's something we can talk to Agri about.
But I'm just
it's
saying,
more damage to your knee. Well, not damage, but stress to your knee.
But at the same, I beg to differ on that because depending upon what surface you play on from week to week, going from grass to turf, that can affect.
Yeah, that's true.
Planting and moving. So I'm just saying, anybody who's looking at what Adrian Peterson has done, if you're a Bulls fan, you should feel really good about where Derrick Rose probably is right about now. Because they both had similar surgeries, obviously due to what happened to them last season. Mm-hmm. So, but when you look at this whole MVP thing, I'm like, and I really like, I'm Adrian Peterson all day long. I think he is, to me, the prototype of what I would want to back to be on my team.
Well, let's ask right here. Who do you take? Who was your pick?
No, why are you asking me that? You know who I'm picking.
So you can't just be objective about this.
I'm not. I think I am being objective about this because here's my. Okay.
You're being objective about your boo.
Yeah.
I am being objective about this. I'm just saying because, granted, we know they're both coming back from injuries that would have affected their ability to produce.
Yes.
I'd never like to feel that a quarterback's role is more important than anybody else on the field, but in a way it kind of is. That's why this conversation about the Romos and the Jay Cutlers of the world consistently go on. And here's my thing why I would cast my vote for Peyton Manning, besides the fact that I think he's just absolutely awesome. He makes everyone around him better. And I don't know that I can say that about Adrian Peterson. He's better, and he's about to potentially break a record next week, but he doesn't make everyone on the team around him better.
Yeah, you usually don't have running backs do that.
But that's what I'm just saying. Right. So for me, Peyton Manning makes everyone around him better. And I think to me, that's an intangible that would make me cast my vote. That's where my vote goes.
Farouk? Who do you go to?
I don't pick either one of them because if you really kind of take a step back and look at this, the way this thing it should be Matt Ryan. The best team, best record, best player.
Wait.
I'm being.
Wait.
I'm not a Falcons fan. I think
Is that
we can all.
is that what the MVP is really about? And and here's what's interesting, because when we had this conversation on Twitter, I went back and forth with a couple other people on Twitter, and I said it is true that Peyton Manning actually doesn't lead in the stat of passing yards. He's actually behind Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Matt Ryan. He's actually and Matthew Stafford, but barely, like only by like less than 100 yards is he kind of right behind them, and he could have moved up in the list. Whereas Adrian Peterson technically leads in the rushing stat for running backs. So if you make this makes me feel like we're having a sabermetrics talk for some odd reason. So it depends on what becomes your caveat for what's your criteria for this.
Best player on the best team. If he's not a game manager, Matt Ryan. He's actually putting up major numbers. He has 31 touchdown passes this year.
Actually, Peyton Manning actually has more touchdowns.
Okay, that's fine, but they have the best record in the NFL, the Atlanta Falcons.
Okay, but
there has to be some type of something for that.
I'm just saying, but here's the thing. But Matt Ryan is coming back to a team perfectly healthy, where here's my thing, that my other vote for Peyton Manning over Adrian Peterson is that not only is he coming back from injury, he went to a new team, had to learn a new playbook. So now here becomes all the things, but yet he's able to step into that role.
He should be comeback player of the year for that.
Nah,
they have an award for that.
He's better than
comeback
that.
Player of the year.
He's better than that.
Can you have both?
He's not just a comeback player. He literally is on a new team, and they're in playoff contention.
It's probably going to flip either way. One is going to get MVP. One is going to get
that's
comeback player of the year. I just don't think. And I think it throws back with Matt Ryan, real quick. I think it throws back to what you always say doing in the playoffs. I think people hold that against him. I don't know if you're able to get MVP votes for that. It's going to come down to AP.
When do they cast a vote for MVP?
That will come
it's in the
sometime during the playoffs.
It's in the playoffs.
Okay, so that might be the thing that could determine.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest.
I'm sure
let me
people.
just say this. Let's say the Denver, because they're in the divisional rounds. They get that first round bye.
Yeah, they get it by.
And actually, so does Atlanta. So you really don't get to see either one of them in action until after the wild card rounds.
That's my point. They'll be voting on the regular season. I'm not even counting the playoffs in this because Matt Ryan would never come up in this conversation, obviously. But if you base it on the regular season, why not him? I mean, just because everybody is talking about Peyton Manning and Adrian Peterson, yes, they're having great years. Yes, they're doing amazing things coming off of surgeries. But I think personally it should be Matt Ryan. I think either one of those two guys is going to, I think you're 100% right, D. That's what's going to happen. But my opinion is it should be Matt Ryan. That's all I'm saying.
Let's put this in perspective. So, because the Falcons are 13-2 and the Broncos are 12-3, you're literally looking at a game difference. You think that becomes a determining factor? So if it ends up that Peyton Manning has more touchdowns and more yards when the season ends, but yet his team has one more loss, you're saying that should make him not be the MVP?
This is what I'm saying. I'm saying in their conference, in the NFC, they've been far and away the best regular season team.
They have.
Have they not?
They have.
Denver?
No, Atlanta.
Oh, you said the NFC. I'm sorry, I said the AFC.
They've been far and away the best from the start. It hasn't been a thing where they won 7 games in a row, and then they've
hasn't
been
close.
consistent all year long.
Let's say this. They've been the most consistent team. Is that the best thing to say?
They've been killing people, too. It's not just them barely eking wins out. They've been destroying people. I'm giving them credit. I know that I say a lot of they do it in the playoffs, but I'm giving them their credit.
Because there are probably some Atlanta people like livid right now. How dare you not give the Dirty Birds no credit?
That 5 interception game is going to go against Matt Ryan. It's going to be a few.
It happens.
Peyton Manning threw 3 in the first quarter against Atlanta in the first Monday night game this year that Peyton Manning played in.
But
and they still lost. They didn't come back and win that game. Atlanta thrashed them.
Okay, but remember, you play that game now, and you might get a different outcome.
Probably.
I say that about some of the Bears wins quite frequently. You reposition when there's a matchup, when all of a sudden Denver is kind of hitting on all cylinders, and they found some symbiotic rhythm in the receivers and the defense, which the defense has always been
there.
Has always been there.
Yeah.
But now that other things have come into play, that might be a different.
It's
matchup.
I'm
so
not
many
disagreeing
factors,
with
man.
you. I'm not disagreeing with either one of you
Then this
guys.
just means that Denver and Atlanta needs to meet in the Super Bowl.
I was just about to say that.
And then
rematch.
you know what? And then we'll resolve this issue. And then
Please don't
then
do
you
that
shove.
to me.
Then you shove Matt.
probably gonna happen,
then you
man.
shove Matt Ryan down my throat. How about that?
Please don't do that to me. I don't want that. That might be the last Super Bowl I didn't
Oh my
watch.
God, I might pass
Didn't
out.
they play against each other?
Yeah, 98.
98, right?
Elway's last
Yeah,
one.
oh, yeah.
Oh, John Elway will probably just hurt himself.
If
They make it.
If they make it, are you kidding?
Oh,
Because
man.
he wanted Peyton Manning so desperately.
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen Elway court anyone like that.
Well, he got his man.
I boycotted the Giants Ravens Super Bowl in 01.
01.
Because I couldn't stand the Ravens because they were half of a team. So I didn't want to see that. I knew they were going to win anyway, and they won.
You know
so,
what'll
but
be?
I would boycott Denver, Atlanta.
Here's
I don't wanna see
something
that.
with Atlanta you can take into, if you're a Bears fan, you can take into digesting this for a bit. The current installment of the Falcons that you see, Phil Emery had a lot to do with that.
Yep.
So if you're a Bears fan, even though your season may not end the way you want it, know that this Falcons team on this field, Phil Emery had a lot to do with drafting and going into free agency and building this team. So you're seeing his work in action, which is kind of sweet.
Let's hope it. I'm
I'm trying to keep hope alive in some way.
Hope alive.
Keep hope alive. First one to call in. All right. Cincinnati 13, Pittsburgh 10. Andy Dalton 24 for 41, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had AJ Green go for 116 yards. Then you had Ben Roethlisberger 14 for 28, 222 yards. Man, a lot of twos. 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and you had Antonio Brown go for 99 yards and 1 touchdown. So this is kind of odd that Pittsburgh's not going to be in the playoffs, but you have the Bengals. Marvin Lewis, another guy who's been there forever. Hasn't been fired. Same thing. It's like him and Lovey.
No.
Like,
Marvin's
no. I'm saying in the sense of like they're at these franchises, and you think like, man, you got to get fired, and you never get fired. And now he's back in the playoffs.
Back-to-back years.
Back-to-back years. Yep.
But this gets back to, when is mediocrity not what you want anymore? When is just making a playoff appearance not enough? Maybe he doesn't have the ability to get the big win. I'm just saying.
Oh, Cincinnati, if this form,
They're going to lose in the playoffs.
if this form holds the true right now, they will get beat.
Are they
by
the fifth
Patriots.
seed?
They're 6, and they will
they're
play
sixth
New
seed.
England.
Oh, they're going to
And
get
they're going to get dusted.
Yes. So.
Oh, they're going to get
Well, I tried
dusted.
to throw a little hope out there for you,
But,
Marvin.
but Pittsburgh, they don't normally miss the playoffs. So this is pretty big to me personally because I fully expected them to win this game today. I fully expected them to make it to the playoffs, and
They'll be back next year.
Ben Roethlisberger lost 2 straight games for them.
2 straight games, 2
I think
interceptions,
this has
bad
a lot to do
interceptions.
with their carousel of injuries and just they had a lot of stuff going on as a team. And I think obviously in the long run they lost games that they should have won. So hence they're not going to have any postseason play.
Okay, I know what you guys are going to say, but when do you look at Big Ben?
As far as what?
As being a problem. I mean, injury prone the last 2 years, and now he's literally costing them games.
This man cheats death. He's not going anywhere in Pittsburgh.
He's a fixture.
He's a fixture, yes.
And he does a lot of other stuff, too, that should have gotten him kicked out of Pittsburgh.
Oh, my gosh. That's all alleged stuff.
No.
I'm sorry, did he go to prison?
Not alleged.
Did he go to prison? Did he do jail time?
Didn't he?
Did he do any jail
settle
time?
out of court for it?
Is he even on probation?
The man just cheats death. That's all I'm saying.
Hello, Farouk? Farouk?
Cheats a lot of stuff. Got some
Look.
virgin ears.
Right.
I'm just saying he didn't. They're innocent until proven guilty, and I know there were lots of allegations, but he never was charged, and nothing went from that. So I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and say what he is or is not guilty of. I wasn't there, and we all know how things.
Well, thank God you wasn't.
Because you would have might have been next.
You know what?
Oh, that's mean, Farouk.
No, I wouldn't have, because see, that's where he would have learned his lesson.
But he didn't.
He would have learned. No, he would have learned his lesson the hard way, and not the good hard way, by the way. But
That's in Stilettos. You gotta love it.
I caught that. I caught all of that.
anyways, I'm just.
But I will say, I will agree with you, Farouk. Injuries are starting to pile up a little bit.
That's all I'm saying.
You know.
This all comes down. Hey, this all comes down to contract conversation. When is his contract up?
And Pittsburgh is usually smart about stuff like
They
this.
are very smart.
So they're usually out in front of stuff like this. So I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying that something will happen this offseason.
The
but
Rooneys know how to run a franchise.
Yeah.
I'll put it this way: you got to figure if they eventually let likes of Hines Ward go, and they may be looking at even at Palomalu, who is a little bit injury prone.
Yes.
So there might be some changes coming for Pittsburgh down the pipeline. I wouldn't be shocked at that.
All right, just go ahead and wrap up. St. Louis 28, Tampa Bay 13, Indianapolis 20, KC 13, New England 23, Jacksonville 16. You have Buffalo 10, Miami 24, Oakland 6, Carolina 17, Tennessee 7, Green Bay 55. Double nickel. Wow. San Diego 27, New York Jets 17, and you had Atlanta 31, Detroit 18. And that is around the league.
Well, let's go back to this rookie of the year in the NFL, because it's been just
my mouth has been open this whole game. I have just been like, I couldn't even talk NBA because I'm just like so.
Russell Wilson is amazing.
Really?
Yeah, he's amazing. 4 TD passes tonight. They're in the victory formation, about to knock off the 49ers and pretty much even that race up in the NFC West. And we were talking before the top of the hour break at 10 o'clock. This Rookie of the Year thing has turned from just Luck and RG3 into now 3 people, with Russell Wilson in the mix. And but with that being said, I feel like it should be RG3 right now as Rookie of the Year. That's my opinion with 1 game to go. It's subject to change with 1 game left. But I just feel like RG3 has done more. I can't give it to Luck because he leads the league in interceptions. So I don't feel like anybody that leads the league in a stat like that should be getting some type of glorification. As good as he's been, as great as he's been for that team.
Even as a rookie where there's going to be mistakes and in the development, you're saying that should just absolutely rule him out?
Yes, because that is a very damning stat.
He's a
right
rookie.
there. Okay, but that's still a damn. You can't say that and then on the other hand, okay, he's a rookie. He has all these interceptions, but hey, let's give him Rookie of the Year.
I'm just saying, given that the Colts pretty much, broke apart the team, there was no expectation that they would even be where they are. Matter of fact, they've clinched a playoff spot. There was no thought that the Colts would be as good as they are or that he would even be as good as he is.
When you have other people to choose from that aren't turning the ball over as much as him, I think it's relatively easy.
Okay, so that's one stat that he's not perfect in, but I still think that shouldn't rule him out the conversation of Rookie of the Year. I don't.
No, well, like I was saying, you have RG3, who's very efficient with the ball. You have Russell Wilson, who's even more efficient. I think it should go RG3, Wilson, and then Luck. Luck he's made a major impact on that team. I'm not denying that at all, but I can't in good conscience give that award to someone who leads the league in interceptions.
Okay. So you just really want it to be RG3, pretty much.
Pretty much it should be, yeah. This team is probably going to win the division next week more than likely, So
where does Wilson fall in there then? Is he?
Like I said, I think Wilson should be second. I don't think it should be like Luck and RG3, just that right there. Go ahead, D.
And I know you think that Washington's going to win it.
Yeah.
But let's say if they don't win it.
Okay.
Do you still just throw it to them? You still just give it to RG3?
Well, it depends on if Washington makes the playoffs because it's still a scenario where they lose that game and get into the playoffs. They won't be instantly eliminated.
Let's say they don't make the playoffs.
Is it still the whole thing with your Matt Ryan?
Then Russell Wilson.
Scenario? Then Russell Wilson.
Because I have him second. I have Wilson second. Luck does. He leads the league in it. You can't give it to a guy who leads the league in interceptions.
But think about where they came from, though.
I understand that.
That's a lot. If they would not be where they at right now without
they
Andrew
probably.
Luck.
But that being said, they probably would have more wins if he didn't
They
throw
have,
as many
10
interceptions.
wins?
Yes.
They have 10 wins.
Okay.
Yes.
Come on.
They had 1 or 2 wins last year.
It might sound harsh. It might sound harsh, but
It's very harsh. I think
they probably would be a
and
little
trust me,
better. If,
And for me to be advocating for Luck to stay in the mix says a lot because I wasn't. Really
Don't be
happy.
shocked if he win it either. Don't be shocked.
Right.
I won't be. But my personal opinion, I feel like no, not when you lead the league in interceptions. No. We had a lot going on tonight. That with Agri Sam, that was a lot that we haven't been able to do. We haven't really done a lot of NBA so far this year. So thanks to him for joining us.
Yes.
Thank you to everyone for listening, to the staff, callers, all of you. We appreciate and love every last one of you. Check us out 9 o'clock next Sunday.